Now we're going to take a look at a concept called function composition. Composition is when you plug one function into another. Remember that. Say that 3 times and hopefully that will help you remember what composition is. It's when you plug one function into another. So for example, look at this notation right here. For my outside parentheses, let's just use red for example. I have f of something, right? So those are my outside parentheses. But what am I actually plugging in? I'm plugging in a function value of g given that I'm inputting a. So I'm plugging in a y value of g after I plug in the input for a. That output for g is going to be my input for f. So yes, it's a little confusing at first, but once we look at these charts, you'll see exactly what's going on. Now there is another way to notate that. It looks like fog. It looks like fog of a, but this is actually means the same thing up here. So if whenever you see this, you don't want to confuse yourself, you can always convert it to this form. It means f of g of a. So basically, if you see this, plug in a for g, get a y value back, and then plug that y value into f to get another y value back. So the output of one function becomes the input of another. The output of g becomes the input of f. So without further ado, let's look at some examples. Now we have 3 charts here, right? Now notice, again, all the x values are the same no matter what. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 are all of the inputs. We have different outputs depending on the function charts. We have an f, a g, and an h chart. So our first example says, what is f of g of -1? So this is what I tell my students all the time. Start from the inside and work your way out. Just like, well, I don't even know. Maybe like thinking about the inside of the earth and working out. I don't know. Start from the inside of the function and work your way out. If you can think of a good analogy there, let me know. Step 1, determine the inner function value. So what is the innermost function here? It's g, right? So we want to figure out what g of -1 is. Then we'll figure out f, which is on the outside. So what is g of -1? Well, first we have to find the g chart and then figure out where -1 is. What's the y value there? It's 2, right? So g of -1 is equal to 2. So I'm going to replace g of -1 with 2, and that completes my first step of determining the inner function value. Now what do I have? I have f of 2. So now all I have to do for step 2 is to determine my outer function value. What is f of 2? Let's go back to our charts here. We're going to go to the f chart now because it's f of 2. Let's go down to the input for x of 2. What's the output? It's a -3. So therefore f of 2 is equal to -3, and that completes that's my final answer. So f of g of -1 is -3. We found g of -1 first to be 2, and we found f of 2 to be -3. Therefore f of g of -1 is equal to -3. That's it for this example. If you have any questions about it, let me know.